Gotta get the hair looking right. Hi, everybody. So I know a lot of people, myself included, have had so many challenges sticking to Dr. Brooke Goldner's raw vegan diet, or maybe you don't even know who she is, but maybe you do want to try a raw vegan diet, or maybe you just want to stick with it, or just know how to do it right, because most people go on a raw vegan diet for health reasons, and to stick with it is for health reasons. I mean, why else would you do it? Because cooked food is easier. Just go to a restaurant, just go to friends' houses, boom. You got your delicious cooked food. But the reason why we do it, and the reason why we continue doing it, and just to remind ourselves, and I have to remind myself, why am I doing this? I'm not doing this diet because I want to torture myself, or I want to be weird, or want to be different, I want to be difficult. No, I want to be without pain. I want to feel well. I want to live life well. I want to do things that I should be able to do, right? And that is one thing I have to continually remind myself. And that helps me stick to this diet. And sometimes, I'll feel fine. And for a while, and then I feel crappy again. And then I have to remind myself, it's the food. Why? I have to remind, when we, let me back up. When we feel well, we don't ask ourselves, why do I feel well? When we feel ill, we say, why do I feel ill? We're feeling well because we're eating clean. We're not feeling well because we haven't been eating clean for a while, or we shouldn't even use the word clean. It really depends. So some people can get away with more than others. And instead of feeling sorry for ourselves, which is, normal, but that's not helpful. And there's a lot of challenges, and the reminder of why we're doing this is the best way to stick to it. So the other things that I found is, they say, your why. I hate that terminology. It's like so overdone, so overplayed. But that is really helpful for a lot of people, myself included. Why am I doing this? Because I've tried everything else. I've tried every diet out there. I've tried every plan. I've worked with so many doctors. I've spent thousands of dollars. Supplements don't work. Drugs don't work. They make me sicker, right? The drugs are probably what causing some of my issues right now. But yeah, so reminding myself, why the heck am I doing this? And then instead of complaining like what I do myself, like, oh, this sucks, I hate this. Like, that's complaining about it is not helping me. Telling myself this is hard, and that I don't like it, that's not helpful. So I had to sit down, quiet time. How can I make this easier for me? I have to do it, right? I've decided that I want to be well. I want to be free of disease. I want to be off medication completely. So how can I make this easier for myself? And it's like no distractions. And then I took a piece of paper, and then I realized what I needed to do. One, I really need a plan, right? I need to buy those foods to make my life easier. Some of them I had, some of them I didn't. Nutritional yeast, the vegan cheese that's tasty, right? Coconut aminos, a lot of people don't know what that is. I don't like Bragg's aminos. My food's gotta taste good. I have to have all the foods that I need, and in abundance. I don't want to be starving at the last second. I need a plan ahead of time. So if I know I'm going to be starving at 11 o'clock, which is way earlier than most people eat lunch, I need to start prepping at 10:30. I need to start prepping my food before I'm starving. And then I also need to give myself treats. Treats that may or may not be on plan. And people are going to complain about this, but let me explain. So you've got to decide what's worse. So what's worse for someone will be different for another. So someone will be like so good on plan and they'll be maybe for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And then they eat a beef burger, cheese. The bun's not the worst part, but it's the beef burger, the animal fat, saturated fat, the animal protein, and the cheese. That is really, really bad choice. Really bad. You're going to have a lot of problems regaining your health from that burger. And then that's going to trigger, like, oh my God, this is so good, and you're going to want more and more and more. And you might end up, adding the French fries and adding the milkshake and craving it more the next day. It's going to trigger more cravings. So that would be a definite no, I would say, for everybody. So my husband makes these delicious chocolate chip cookies. It's not it's not terrible. I mean, it's got oats and banana, a little bit of maple syrup, but it's got the ultra processed chocolate chips, which is sugar. And when I have one, I want more. I end up eating 3 or 3.5. And then the next day I want more. And then I'm in pain 3 days after that. And that's the thing. You can have that pain continue 3 days later, maybe the next day. Maybe you're fine now, or the next day you're fine, and the day after that. So it can take up to 3 days. So you may be not feeling good for 3 days, or the pain might occur 3 days later. So you may not even realize what triggered the pain or the symptoms. But sometimes it could take even longer to get back on track. So what do I want to do? Obviously the cookies are better than the burger, but it's going to trigger my cravings and it's going to not improve my health. It's going to deteriorate my health. So I've decided I actually made a plan. What am I going to do? Okay, so I decided, all right, what I'm going to do is maybe I'll make a smoothie. Maybe I'll make one with cocoa powder, right? And maybe I had my smoothie and I've exceeded my allotment of cocoa powder. So on Dr. Goldner's plan, 1 tablespoon of cocoa or cacao powder, raw cacao powder a day is the limit. But I'm going crazy. So either I'm going to go off plan or be really angry and upset and depressed and not motivated, or I can have my delicious chocolate smoothie and yeah, I'll have some more almond milk. So I've exceeded my almond milk quota of 1 cup because I'm having another cup. But guess what? I'm not going to have the side effects. I'm not going to have the cravings. I'm not going to have the bad attitude. And the mindset is a huge, huge part of the equation when it comes to sticking to something. You have to want it. You shouldn't be hating it. So I felt that to be really, really helpful. And sometimes I don't want a big, huge smoothie because then if I make this smoothie and I'm really only I just have a little craving and I need all these ingredients to make my smoothie taste good, then I'm stuffed and my stomach doesn't hurt and then I'm grumpy again. So what I decided to do is I bought, not allowed on Dr. Goldner's protocol, but it's medjool dates, my favorite type of date. The best ones I think are at Trader Joe's. And they're already cut, the pit is removed, and they're nice and soft and squishy and delicious. And they're pretty fresh. And I take a little bit of almond butter and I smear it on the inside, squish it together, and that's my little treat. Sometimes I'll have 2, sometimes I'll have 3, sometimes 1 will do it. But I have satisfied my craving. It's still raw, it's still vegan, and I haven't had any problems. I just gotta, make sure I'm drinking my water. So giving yourself treats that are not going to harm you, I think is a good fallback for when you feel like you're gonna fall off the wagon. So I want to see, and I have had people ask me questions, and one of the questions I get, and Dr. Goldner has gotten, is what if you don't have the money to buy organic produce? well, you do with what you can. You can still heal if you're not getting organic produce. But just try to get non-GMO. So non-GMO, not genetically modified foods have typically less pesticides, less chemicals, better you, better planet. So that is an option for you if you cannot afford uh, organic. But I would definitely not eat the foods that are, um, the really like the ones that are full of pesticides. Like if you can't even get non-GMO, don't do grapes or strawberries. Those should definitely be organic. But do your best. Seeing if there's any questions in the chat right now. It does not look like it. So hopefully I'll answer all your questions. So those things have really helped mindset and mindsets. It's I'd say like 99% mindset, because if you didn't make that decision to do raw and try this, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be trying it or even watching this video. And then another thing is, don't watch other videos or read articles that are contrary to what you're trying to achieve to figure out, is this right? Stick to it. The raw vegan diet is the healthiest diet, as long as you are not going overboard with the nuts. So nuts are fine, just like everything. Like water's healthy, but you can you can go overboard with water too. But yeah, a handful is usually fine, an ounce. So I found with the nuts to not have it as a little snack. That I can give myself permission to make a dressing with it and only have it as a dressing, or if I do the almond butter on the date, and once in a while, super rare, I'll do maybe a little bit of almond butter in a smoothie. Peanuts are not raw, or if they are, they're gross. So I don't, and you don't want it roasted. Obviously, if it's roasted, it's not raw. And the whole reason of eating a raw diet is to retain the nutrients. We do not get enough nutrients, and that is why we're sick. And also, when you're heating up food, obviously you're losing a lot of the nutrition, but also you're changing the molecular structure of the food. So when your body is seeing this as it comes into your system, sorry about that, it may get confused and say, wait, this doesn't seem like a food, and it starts creating antibodies and attacking your tissues and your organs, maybe your joints. And that's how antibodies are formed when you eat cooked foods. So that's a little bit about the science on how that works. What else can I share with you? The other thing that I found that helped is I Googled, actually my friend told me this. She said, hey, Nina, there is a raw vegan restaurant in where we live. There's actually, it's the same one, there's two. And they're both by the beach. They're both in different directions. Well, like they're both about 20, 25 minutes away. So I contacted the restaurant and I said, do you have sugar in your food? And they said, yes, certain ones. Like their coconut bacon has sugar in it. So I decided, all right, make sure not to have the coconut bacon. And I said, how about oil? And they said the only oil they use is a tiny bit of sesame oil. And I think they said their pizza. And they said, but they make a huge batch. And so the final amount is super small. So I decided I'm going to go to that restaurant, and I tried their quesadilla. It's raw vegan. And they had a cashew topping. That was their cashew cheese. And I felt fine. And I didn't have anything else. I had their little their raw vegan little quesadilla, and their little squares, and I was so happy. I have not gone to a restaurant in about 4 years, and I felt good. I felt good when I was there hanging out with my friends, finally eating at a restaurant. I was sort of in compliance. It was raw vegan, right? It was 100%. They said everything's 100% raw vegan, nothing cooked, heated. It's not cooked. Nothing heated over 115 degrees, and they used dehydrators. And I felt fine the next day and the next and the next. So I decided, well, I'm going to give myself that little treat once in a while. And so I went, I think it was, yeah, last week I had the raw vegan burger, and it was walnut meat, and it had sprouts, and it had like a sesame little little bun, and it was great. I loved it. I mean, if people who are not on a eating a raw vegan diet, they're not going to be like, they might not even like it, but it made me happy, and I didn't have any negative side effects. And maybe you want to try some dehydrated food. Yes, it doesn't have enough nutrients, but again, your mindset, your sense of happiness and wellness and how you feel, and you gotta like the food. There are very few people who don't care about how the food tastes. I've noticed that bodybuilders, they don't really care about how the food tastes. They care more about aesthetic, how they look, how big their muscles are. And I'm not one of those people. I'm sure you're not either. My food needs to be yummy. If my food is not yummy, I get upset. I get really depressed because now I have to wait. Like I typically only have a smoothie, I try just once a day. So if my smoothie's yucky, then I make myself typically wait until the next day, and that kind of bums me out. So instead, I do the little date treats, and I like that. So right now, I'm making some cauliflower pizza crisps. I'm not going to crisp it too much. And then I'm dehydrating some mushrooms. So if that turns out, I'll share that with you. And I don't eat dehydrated food very often. Actually, I rarely ever eat it. But I am, I think that we need to be not so like insane about certain things, and more strict on some things and more strict on others. Do we need to avoid cheese? Absolutely. Do we need to avoid animal protein? Oh, yes. And why? Because those foods make us so sick. So those will trigger the antibodies. Those will trigger the horrible symptoms. The maybe a little coconut sugar. Maybe it'll give you a little inflammation, a breakout. Not great, right? But the alternative. So pick the better portion, and then you can try seeing if the dehydrated foods bother you or not. So maybe one meal with a little dehydrated food is okay, just like a wrap. Maybe just wrapping sprouts and some tomatoes and bell peppers and maybe a seed dressing, or maybe avocado dressing or avocados. Maybe that will work for you because that's just a little bit of dehydrated food. If it does not work for you, if it makes you sick, obviously, cut that out. So everybody's different. Make it work for you. And like I was saying at the beginning, instead of saying why this isn't working for you, like why it's hard, figure out how to make it easier. And also be kind to yourself. Like if something is triggering or if someone's upsetting you, like what one of my triggers is, and I'm sure you can relate, is when I smell someone cooking food and it smells so good. Like my husband makes the most amazingly delicious food, and it's all vegan, it's all super healthy, plant-based, and he doesn't use any oils. And I miss his food. I love his meals. And when he starts cooking them, I'm not going to make him eat my diet. He's perfectly healthy. That would be very nice. But when I smell his food, I kind of go, oh, I want that too. I'm like a little kid. Oh, I want that. And I'm looking at it. He's like, stop hovering. And I'm like looking at his food. What are you making? And I'm like, yum, yum. And then it triggers. It triggers. It makes me sad and jealous. I want to eat that. And it's like the little kid little comes out in me. So and what I tell myself, well, maybe I can. What if there's a way to make that raw? Maybe I can. What are the flavors that I like that I can maybe recreate that? And he's really clever, and he'll say, "Hey, why don't you try this and that?" So sometimes that's how I came up with my raw vegan paella, and that's on my plant-based Nina's plant-based vegan recipes. That has all my recipes. It's got cooked and a lot of raw recipes on there. And I also have like a Asian fried rice. It's not fried, and it's cauliflower rice that's completely raw. None of it's dehydrated. So I so instead of me saying I can't have that, I'm thinking, what if there's a way I can make that? What if there's a way I can recreate that? And that's how I also came up with my sausage crumble with flax seeds. So that's on there also. So, uh, so I'm kind of reframing how I think about things. And instead of friends, asking me out for meals, I'll invite them over. So my husband will make them a plant-based vegan meal, and then I'll have my big salad, and then they get to come over. And so, and my mom says, "Hey, I'll come over to my place. I'll have some guacamole for you, and then I'll cut up some cabbage, and you can have your cabbage cups with guacamole." So those are little tricks. And then I have had people. This one woman, she was inviting me out to these restaurants, and she's like, "But they're vegan." I said, "I can't eat cooked food," and people, they don't understand it. And I get it. It's kind of funky. It's kind of weird, right? And she thought that I didn't want to spend time with her, that I didn't want to, that I didn't want to have lunch with her. And that's not the case. So people will make assumptions, and you may even make assumptions. So never assume, because a lot of times our assumptions are wrong. So share with people your feelings, and not that you're mad at them, but tell people what you want. Like my husband would say, "Oh, you're making your flax dirt again." I take my flax, I grind it up, and I said, "You know what? That's not very helpful. You're putting down my food, and it's hard enough for me to eat this way, and you're making it harder. So please don't put down my food." So telling people how you feel, and I was bottling that up inside, but I decided, why am I doing that when all I need to do is say, "Hey, this is what I need." So that's helpful, and expressing yourself without anger is helpful. And he also said, like, I remember one time I was really upset, something upset me, and so I had in my freezer Ezekiel bread, and I decided to eat the Ezekiel bread, and I ate, I think, 7 slices that day. And then it triggered me for wanting more, you know, starchy food. So then I had pasta, and it was delicious. And then he said, "Oh, good, you're eating real food." Well, that food did not help me. It felt great in the moment, but what happened was my blood sugar went up. It was hard to control. I had to take a lot more insulin. I'm a type 1 diabetic, or I should say I have type 1 diabetes. And so I had to take a lot more insulin. And the more I take, it can be very dangerous, because I could take too much, and then I can go too low, and then I can fall down and put myself in a dangerous situation. So if I found that a raw vegan diet really helps my blood sugar so well, I can manage it really well. I don't need to take that much. And for instance, I typically only need 7 units of fast acting insulin, so right after a meal or right before a meal, depends. And then 3 units of background insulin. So that's take it at night, and that insulin carries me for 24 hours. So that's a total of 10 units, 10 units total of insulin for 24 hours, or I should say per day. So for context, people who are a lot of times they're overweight and they have uncontrolled diabetes, they will need between 80 and 100 units of insulin per day. And their blood sugar is still uncontrolled. Mine is controlled. It's, I don't remember the exact number, but the A1C is under 6. And but healthy, the doctors say healthy insulin is no more than 30. So again, I'm taking 10 units on this raw vegan diet, and the doctors are saying 30 is okay. So I'm doing better than okay, which is like, yay. So the reason why I'm doing it is I have nerve damage that's causing me pain and itchiness and weird uncontrollable temperatures. I get cold really easy, I get hot really easy, I get uncomfortable in my own skin, and just a lot of weird things. But anyways, I don't want to go into the details of that. It's too much work to think about all my problems. But yeah, so my goal is to stick to this diet because I already feel the benefits. I see the benefits every single day. And for some people, it's going to take longer than 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I know Dr. Brooke Goldner has a 6-week program, but not everyone has $3,000 to pay for that program and they don't have the time, or maybe they don't even want all that one-on-one attention. So, and then I actually contacted Dr. Goldner and her husband, and they don't know if one of the conditions I have is Raynaud's, RAYNAUD''S. If a raw vegan diet will even reverse it. But just because it may not happen doesn't mean I shouldn't try it, because I've tried everything else. So why not? And I'm already seeing really good results. Maybe it will happen, right? So good thoughts, right? So I'm trying to see if anybody has any questions. So it looks like maybe no one was able to, or maybe I missed it. Is there any questions here? I don't see any. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong section. So anyways, if you have questions that I did not answer in this live video, or maybe you want another one, put them in the notes below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can, because I want to help you, and helping others actually makes me feel really good. It helps motivate me to stick to it. Right now, I'm writing a book on mindset, and then I'm putting my raw vegan recipes in there and how I stick to it, and really fun, interesting stories. So my hope is that I'll have that published in about 6 months. So we'll see, but I'm not going to rush it. And hopefully let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in reading. So that's all for now. And I hope you feel really good. If not, I hope you feel better soon, and give this diet a try. Give these tricks a try. Check out those recipes. I'm going to keep posting more, and I'm only going to post the recipes that I think are really delicious. So I've been posting a raw vegan recipe every week, and it's a little stressful to get a new one out every week, because some recipes I have to make about 20 times before I get it right. And I'm not going to share a recipe that I personally don't think is delicious. Anyways, see you soon. Bye.